There can be no denying that the song, The Girl from Ipanema, has been an incredibly popular and enduring song since the first recording by Stan Getz and Astrid Gilberto was released in 1964. There are some websites that claim it's the second most recorded song in history. There are other websites that dispute this, but no matter where you stand on this, I think it's safe to say that it's been recorded many, many times. It's the kind of song that if any of us had written, we'd be able to live very comfortably off the royalties. The song's composer, Antonio Carlos Jobim, is also one of the most recorded composers of the past 60 years. He helped to found the bossa nova craze in the United States in the 1960s, and it's safe to say that if you're a working musician, you certainly need to know how to play The Girl from Ipanema. What makes this song so popular and so enduring? From my perspective, it's a combination of several different elements. The most important one to me is that the song sounds simple. It's got a very catchy melody that's easy to remember. Underneath this veneer of simplicity, you'll find an incredible sophistication of melody, harmony, and rhythm all working together to create this song. On today's video, we'll take a look at the A section of the song, the verse, and see how one of the main organizing principles found in virtually all Afro-Cuban music, the clave, helps to organize the melody. We'll take an additional look at the melody and see how it relates to the harmony and some other structural components. If you remove or alter any of these components, the song would suffer in quality. But the main thrust is the interplay between the clave and the melody and how that helps propel the song forward. There are chapters in the description box below so that you can easily navigate through this video. For example, if you already understand what the clave is, you can skip the brief introduction I do at the beginning and move forward from there. In the description box below, there's also a link to a folder up on Dropbox that has some materials for today's video. There's a PDF and a standard MIDI file. You can download those for free and use them. If you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Please leave any comments or questions down below. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. There's another link as well for that. Thanks so much for watching, and let's get right into it. When doing my research for this, I came across a PDF of the originally published sheet music from the 1960s. I think it's always good to go to the original recording and cross-reference that with the sheet music so that you can get the best idea as to exactly what's happening with the song. As a side note, I looked at the address found on the sheet for the Duchess Music Corporation in New York City. Funny coincidence. It's the building that now houses Local 802 of the Musicians Union. I've been a member of Local 802 since 1982 when I first started working as a keyboard player in New York City. This building has been our home since the 1990s. Before we talk about the song, I'd just like to go over the basics of the clave. This is not a lesson on clave, but as my end goal is to show you how Jobim used the clave, a little introduction would be helpful. Very simply, the clave is a rhythmic pattern that is the foundation of all Afro-Cuban based music. This would be styles such as salsa, son clave, rumba, mambo, sango, bossa nova, samba, and many others. There are two main rhythms, the 3-2 clave and the 2-3 clave. This terminology relates to how many clave hits there are in a bar. Right here, I've got two examples, the 3-2 and the 2-3 clave. So if we look at the 3-2 clave, we can see it's a two-measure phrase, and the first measure has 3 clave hits, and the second measure has 2 clave hits, 3, 2. And when you reverse that to a 2-3 clave, the first measure has 2 hits, and the second measure has 3 hits. And notice the 3 and the 3 here, the rhythm is the same as is the 2. Let's take a listen to those, starting off with the 3-2 clave. And I'm sure you've all heard this before, but for the benefit of this tutorial and for those of you who haven't, let's just take a quick listen. And now the 2-3. you've all heard that many times, consciously and subconsciously, because it's all over American music as well. But that's another story and another discussion. The clave on this song has a little bit of a variation on the 3/2 clave. And if we take a look here, this is the melody of the song, and I've got the clave written above it. We'll see on the 2 side, the second one comes in an 8th note later. And this gives you an interesting effect. I'm going to snap my fingers in cut time, so 2 beats per bar, and I'm going to sing the clave, first the 3/2 that's up here, and then this 3/2, and you can hear the difference in feel. So here we go. Bop, 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 bop. For me, the main difference is where the 2 side is leading. On this version, this beat is leading into this beat. On this version, this beat is leading into the downbeat. So let me show you what I mean by that. That's just my own personal feel. Somebody may differ with that, but I really think it makes sense. So bum, dum, dum, bum, 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 as opposed to bop, 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 ba, dum, bum, bum, bop, ba, dum. You can hear how it sort of leads into the next beat. So there's a kind of a motor to this one, this particular one, that moves forward in a different way. Let's take a listen to the melody of the song with the clave, with the click track, and the melody will be played on electric piano, and I've just got the block chords outlining the harmonies. And then we'll do a more detailed breakdown after we play through it. Beautiful melody. Even played as simply as that, you can see why the song is such a huge and enduring hit. Before we take a look at the interplay between the clave and the melody, I'd like to spend a minute just analyzing the melody on its own. I've created a little bit of a skeleton here with just the melody notes devoid of rhythm, and we can take a look at how the melody is structured and how the harmony works with the melody as well. As a little precursor, I'd like to point out that measures 1 and 2 are very similar to measures 3 and 4. There's just some rhythmic change, and that could be for the lyrics to fit them in. That could be just being good composer to create something that's similar but a little bit different to keep the interest. So just thought I'd bring that up. Then once we get down to measure 5, the melody moves, instead of in 2-bar increments, in 1-bar increments. This is 1 unit here, this is another unit here, and then for the last 2 measures, when it resolves, the melody note stays the same. So that's one thing to think about. The first 4 bars are 2 2-bar phrases, the next 2 bars are 2 1-bar phrases, and then the resolution is 2 bars. So as the verse unfolds, the melodic unfolding of the content gets faster and the harmonic rhythm gets faster. It goes from 2 bars to a chord to 1 bar to a chord. Let's break that down a little further. And if we look here, these right here are just the fragments or the skeleton of the melody. These are the notes that are in each of the phrases. So this is the notes that are found in measures 1 and 2, in measures 3 and 4, in measure 5, 6, 7, and 8. If we look here, we can see that these 2 are the same basically, with a difference in harmony. And then this next one at measure 5 is the same pattern, played a diatonic step lower or a whole step lower from the original one. And then we go down another diatonic step right here, or a half step, the starting tone. And then we end on this note here. That's really cool. Everything is in the key. There are no chromatic notes in this part of the song. And what's really ingenious here that he does is he creates something that's very simple intervallically and melodically, but he does something that I think is really essential for people to think about. And that is the way that he avoids the tonic in the melody. And when he does have the tonic, it's in passing and not over the 1 chord. When he plays the F in the melody, which is here because the song's in the key of F, it's over a G minor 7th chord. It's not over an F chord. So if we look here at our first 3 notes, we have a G, an E, and a D, and they're over an F major 7th chord. And they give us the 9th, the major 7th, and the 6th. And then when he repeats those notes, he goes up to a G7 chord. So he goes up a whole step and gives us, instead of a major 7th, he gives us a dominant 7th. And those pitches become the root, the 6th, and the 5th. You could think of that 6th as the 13th, but since it's moving to the D, I think of it as the 6th of the chord. And then he goes to a G minor 7th chord, and that F becomes the 7th, the D is the 5th, and the C is the 4th. Then he moves that down another diatonic step, G flat 7 with a flat 5, and that's the dominant 7th, the E, the flat 5th, and the 3rd. And then the bass note goes down, and the melody note goes up. And that's great voice leading. So we're going from the 3rd, right, the G flat to the B flat. In other words, G flat here and B flat here to F and C. What he's doing with each individual fragment of this melody is he's outlining a 4th and filling it in with a 3rd and moving that down diatonically stepwise. Down a 3rd, down a step, right? So then from the G to the D is the 4th. Repeats. Then F down to C, but it's F, D, C. And notice the F is here, and it's not at the beginning of the song. It's at measure 5. And you can almost think of it as in sort of like a background sense or a longer term, you're going from G to F to E, right? So this F is actually in passing between this measure and this measure on our way to this C here, right? And that's really a great way to use the tonic if you're going to have to use it. Just avoid having it on at the beginning of the piece and avoid having it over a 1 chord. And when he does have the 1 chord here at the end, he's got the 5th in the melody here. And that's some very sophisticated harmonic writing to support this beautiful melody. That's a breakdown of what's happening with the melody. And we can go a little bit further with this and see how this all fits in with the clave. This is another skeleton right here. Basically what I've done is I've outlined the notes that fit in with the clave or anticipate the downbeat. And there's a mistake in the notation here. You'll hear it correctly, but this G is actually an 8th note on the and of 4. I'll correct that in the PDF that I upload, but for right now, just know that that's an incorrect rhythm there. And we can hear how he hits on with the clave exactly, and then we'll hear the effect of some of these other notes like here, 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 and here, how when he's anticipating that downbeat, how it really adds a really cool feel. Let's take a listen to that. It's really beautiful the way it's done. I've got these vertical lines here where the clave lines up with notes, and then all these other notes are in between the clave, like this one right here with the and of 4, the G, in between right here, right? This anticipated note is in between. This one here is in between. This is in between. This is as well. So you could see just how it locks in and dances around the clave. And it does it in such a natural way that you can almost think of these two elements as dance partners, where you've got this really rock steady clave and the melody that sometimes locks in with the clave and sometimes plays against the clave, and this tension, this push and pull between those two elements, and the way that it's so naturally constructed that when you add all of these elements together, the push and pull between the clave and the melody notes, the melodic sequences, the beautiful sophisticated harmonies, all this stuff done naturally, it adds up to an amazing piece of music. Let's take a listen to this one more time. And now let's listen to the full version with the correct syncopation here. All right, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. Typically when I do one of these, I create some music based upon the principles that we discussed during the video. This time I didn't do that. And let me just make a few suggestions how you can use this information. Well, you can certainly use the clave and try to figure out ways to write rhythms around it. Another thing that you can do is you can expand upon the clave. You can play around with the placement of notes. So in bar 2 of a 3-2 clave, the 2 clave hits are on beats 2 and 3. In bar 1, you've got 2 dotted quarter notes and a quarter note. So you've got baka da baka da baka, right? That's the first measure. And then the second measure is taka taka taka, right? So you've got baka da baka da baka 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 baka. Well, what happens if you take the 2 and the 3 in bar 2 and move it so that those hits are on 3 and 4? Then you would have baka da baka da baka tika tika baka 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 da baka da baka tika tika baka baka bum. You'd have something like that. Well, what happens if you add another dotted quarter note in there so that you've got, instead of 3 clave hits at the beginning, you've got 4, and the fourth one starts on the end of 1 in the second bar. You have a figure that you've heard before. Ticket, 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 ticket. Right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, baka, baka, bam. You have a figure like that. That's all over New Orleans second line. Use a figure like that as your rhythmic basis to write some melodic content. Another thing is, in American music, or pop music here in America, the instrument that is most like the clave in Afro-Cuban music is the kick drum in a drum kit. So find some really cool beats, transcribe the kick drum, and see what you can do with that rhythm in terms of using it for the basis for your melodies, right? These are just some ideas. Analyze music, see what makes it work, and then take those principles and move those principles forward to create your own original content. I've been Pete Calandra. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, share this video, leave a comment down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. There's a link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.